Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or The Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in-depth into my week number 10 FanDuel contenders, going over my top 8 quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends for FanDuel in week number 10. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying this video and want some other fire content, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, as well as that like button, whether you are new to the channel or not. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at Notorious FNTSY. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 10 FanDuel contenders. We begin with the quarterback position at number 8 with Derek Carr of the Las Vegas Raiders going up against the Indianapolis Colts, priced at $7,100 on the week. Matthew Stafford of the Rams going up against the Cardinals at home, $6,700. It is important to note that Matthew Stafford is in the concussion protocol right now, and his availability on Sunday is certainly up in the air right now. Obviously, that affects Stafford because if he doesn't play, you don't want him in your lineups, and it also affects Higbee and Cooper Kupp, as well as some of those other ancillary options in LA. Kyler Murray, the short king, is at number 6 of the Arizona Cardinals, going up against the LA Rams, $7,800 in LA. When it comes to Kyler Murray, he's also dealing with an injury, a hamstring injury. It's reported to not be super serious, but I figured it was something to note. At number 5, where the real breakdown begins, we got Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones of the Giants going up against the Houston Texans at home in MetLife, $7,500 on the week. Over at Stokastic.com, we have them projected for 19.6 fantasy points. The Giants have an implied point total of 23.5, ninth in the NFL this week, and they are favored by 6.5 points in this matchup. Right now, we also have Daniel Jones with a 6.4 optimal percentage and a 7 boom percentage. Now, the Houston Texans are dead last in rush DVOA. The Texans defense cannot stop anyone running the ball, and much of the reason why we like Daniel Jones for fantasy football is because of the rushing upside. Despite the fact that he doesn't really have a true number 1 receiver or even a true number 2 receiver on the team, he is still able to make up with that by his rushing upside, and I don't think the Houston Texans are going to be able to contain Daniel Jones, so it makes a lot of sense as to why Daniel Jones is the number 5 quarterback on the week. At number 4, we have Tua Tagovailoa of the Miami Dolphins going up against the Cleveland Browns, currently priced at $8,100 on the week. Right now on the site, we have him projected for 21.3 fantasy points. The Dolphins have an implied point total of 26.25, tied with the Niners as the 3rd highest in the NFL. They're favored by 4 points in this spot. Tua has an 8.6 optimal percentage and an 8.3 boom percentage. Now, Tua's coming off of 2 very good performances up against the Bears last week and up against the Detroit Lions the week before. This week, they get the Cleveland Browns, whose defense has been pretty hit or miss this season. They looked incredible last time out up against the Cincinnati Bengals, but I wouldn't say that there's some ferocious defense. The biggest kicker here will be, what is the Browns' game plan? Because if the Browns are looking to use 9-inch Nicholas Chubb and just grind the clock out, and not let the Dolphins throw the ball a lot, kind of like what the Bills did to the Dolphins, then I think that Tua Tagovailoa ultimately won't have the best shot to do good because he won't be able to throw the ball. But if Jacoby Brissett is firing his way back on into this game, it could be incredibly interesting because Brissett could push the agenda for Tua to potentially finish as the number 1 quarterback on the week. At number 3, we have Justin Fields of the Chicago Bears going up against the Detroit Lions, $8,300 on FanDuel. We currently have projected for 23 fantasy points. The Bears have a 25.75 implied point total in this spot, 5th in the NFL on the week, and they are favored by 3 points up against a not-so-hot Detroit Lions defense, and by not so hot, I mean absolutely atrocious. I know technically they played well up against the Packers offense last week, but in reality, it was more of Aaron Rodgers shitting the bed over the fact that the Lions defense actually woke up. 13.2 optimal percentage for Justin Fields, 12.9 boom percentage. Now, the funniest thing about Justin Fields is the narrative going into last week's game was, ooh, Justin Fields has a good matchup against the Dolphins. We know he has all this rushing upside, but do you run him naked or do you stack him? And there's a lot of people like myself who decide to, you know what, I'm not going to stack Justin Fields. I don't trust Mooney. I don't trust Kmet. And then, obviously, Mooney and Kmet were the answers. So I hope, personally, that Justin Fields now has a reliable number 1 option in Darnell Mooney. This matchup against the Detroit Lions makes your mouth salivate. At number 2, we have Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills going up against the Minnesota Vikings, currently projected for 23.9 fantasy points. The Bills have an implied point total of 25.5, sixth in the NFL in the week, and they are favored by 5.5 points with a 9.8 optimal percentage for Josh Allen and a 10 boom percentage. Now, the biggest issue with Josh Allen this week is he going to play or not with that injury? If I'm the Buffalo Bills, he is not stepping foot on the field for the next couple of weeks to make sure that he's fully recovered so that he doesn't re-hurt himself. I know it might cost them the AFC East title. It might even cost them a bye in the playoffs. But at the end of the day, Josh Allen being healthy for the playoffs should be their number one concern. The question is that actually their number one concern? We shall see. Case Keenum would be the starter in that case. It does make it hard to talk about this situation because, again, I really think the smartest move would be Josh Allen sitting in this spot. At number 1, we have Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. $8,500 on FanDuel, projected for 24.6 fantasy points in this spot. The Chiefs have an implied point total of 30, number 1 in the NFL on the week, and they are favored by 9.5 points up against the Jaguars. Mahomes has a 16.3 optimal percentage and a 16.3 boom percentage. Now, we've seen the Jacksonville Jaguars defense at points in the season look incredible, and then we've seen other times where the defense is non-existent. This week up against the Kansas City Chiefs, it would be hard to believe that the Jaguars defense really shows up in a big way, and I love Patrick Mahomes in this spot, but so does everyone. Next up, we move to the running back position, beginning with Aaron Jones of the Green Bay Packers going up against the Dallas Cowboys this week, 7,200. 9-inch Nicholas Chubb of the Browns going up against the Miami Dolphins in Miami, 9,000. Travis Etienne of the Jaguars going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, $8,000. At number 5, we got Dameon Pierce of the Houston Texans going up against the New York Jumbo Giants, the football Giants, in MetLife, $7,700. We got him projected for 15.1 fantasy points and 16.3 optimal percentage with a 7.6 boom percentage. Now, the Houston Texans are obviously going to be dogs in this game, but I think this game is going to be an incredibly run-heavy affair from both sides. Like I said, the Texans have the worst run defense in the NFL. The Giants' run defense isn't that great, and the odds that Brandon Cooks plays, in my opinion, are incredibly low, and Dameon Pierce is the focal point, the focal piece in this offense, and I think they're going to give him enough carries and enough targets to potentially elevate him to be the number 1 running back on the week. I love him at 7,700. That, honestly, to me, feels a little too cheap. At number 4, we have Alvin Kamara of the New Orleans Saints going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh, 8,600. Interesting enough, there is currently no line on the Pittsburgh versus New Orleans Saints game, and I think that's just because the fact that Vegas has no idea if Jameis is going to be the starter or not on Sunday. We have Kamara projected for 15.4 fantasy points with a 10.1 optimal percentage and a 6.4 boom percentage. If I put Alvin Kamara in my lineup, personally, I would prefer if Andy Dalton was under center, not because I think the Red Rifle is a better quarterback. It's actually the exact opposite, but it's because Andy Dalton just loves checking the ball down to Alvin Kamara, and Jameis Winston can actually throw the ball deep down the field, which is something Andy Dalton can't do, so that does hurt Alvin Kamara slightly, but even if it's Jameis, I do feel confident in Alvin Kamara at his price tag. At number 3, we have Josh Jacobs of the Las Vegas Raiders going up against the Indianapolis Colts, $8,400 on FanDuel, projected for 17.8 fantasy points. The Raiders have an implied point total of 24.8, 7th in the NFL in the week, and they are favored by 6.5 points with a 23 optimal percentage for Jacobs and a 16 boom percentage. The Indianapolis Colts get rid of Frank Reich. They hire Jeff Saturday. This game might be a disaster, but the Raiders' offense is also a disaster because despite the fact that it seems like they're always winning at the beginning of the game, they can't close things out. They cannot finish. They simply cannot finish. Jacobs has been down astronomical the last couple of games. He was on fire just a couple of weeks ago, but recently he's kind of cooled down. This Raiders offense has been so-so. But let's be honest, if they shit the bed here against the Colts, the head's going to start to roll for Josh McDaniels, man. This is a really good spot for Jacobs. A lot of people are going to be nervous to play him this week. And that's exactly why I'm confident to play him. At number 2, we got Saquon Barkley. Before we move on into talking about the rest of these players, I would like to give you guys a quick word from our friends and our sponsor over at BetMGM. We have a great offer from BetMGM. If you are a new user and click on the link in the video description or in the pinned comment, you will get a great offer. It is a $1,000 risk-free bet plus 2 months of Stokastic Platinum for free. All you got to do is deposit at least $10 onto BetMGM, make that wager, and once the wager settles on any sport, you'll receive 2 months of Stokastic plus Platinum. So make sure you guys check that out. Link in the video description down below. Again, you got to be a new user to BetMGM. So again, back into things, we got Saquon Barkley of the Giants going up against the Texans. We've talked about this. The Texans defense is absolute dog shit against the run. Saquon Barkley projected for 18.9 fantasy points. While the Giants don't have the highest implied point total, 23.5, ninth in the NFL, and they're only favored by 6.5 points, Saquon Barkley looks like he's ready to be optimal in this game. 14.9 optimal percentage, 14.2 boom percentage. I know, you got to pay the fat stacks for Saquon Barkley, 9.5 thousand. But at the end of the day, Saquon Barkley truly has the upside to be the number 1 running back on the week. And I'd be shocked, honestly, if he wasn't top 3 just because of how bad this Texans D is against the run. At number 1, we have Derrick Henry of the Tennessee Titans going up against the Denver Broncos, 9,400, projected for 19.4 fantasy points. The Titans have the 15th highest implied point total with 21 on the week. They're favored by 3 points, 18.3 optimal percentage, and a 17.5 boom percentage. Who's going to be the quarterback in Tennessee? I don't know. I thought last week maybe it would be Ryan Tannehill. They went with Malik Willis again. If Malik Willis is under center yet again, we are going to see Derrick Henry have to put the team on his back. They legitimately cannot do anything unless they give Derrick Henry the ball. Now, the Denver Broncos defense is really good. It's the sole bright spot of this team, but we saw them get exposed in their last matchup up against Travis Etienne and the Jacksonville Jaguars in London. So while the matchup is somewhat concerning to me, I still think Derrick Henry gets it done because of just how fucking good the guy is. Next up, we move to the wide receiver position. At 8, we have CeeDee Lamb of the Cowboys going up against the Packers, 7,600 in Lambeau. 7, Jalen Waddle away, Waddle. Jalen Waddle of the Dolphins going up against the Browns, 8,200. Amon-Ra St. Brown at number 6 of the Lions going up against the Chicago Bears, 6,900. At number 5, we have Justin Jefferson of the Minnesota Vikings going up against the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo, 8,600 for Justin Jefferson, projected for 14.5 fantasy points. The Vikings have a 20 implied point total in this spot, 20th in the NFL. Vikings are 5.5 point dogs, 13.4 optimal percentage, 9.7 boom percentage. Justin Jefferson was in a touchdown drought since week 1, but obviously he escaped that in week number 9 in that matchup up against the Commanders. This matchup against the Bills is very so-so to me, and his price tag is 8,600, and I don't think his price tag necessarily correlates to how good of a matchup this is. Like, this matchup is kind of scary for me. This seems like a Kirk Cousins letdown spot. I'm kind of staying away from Justin Jefferson, if I'm being honest with you. If I built 150, obviously, I'm not fully fading Justin Jefferson. Of course, he's just that talented, but don't love this spot, in my opinion. Next up, we move to number 4, Davante Adams of the Las Vegas Raiders, going up against the Indianapolis Colts in Indianapolis. 8,500 for Davante Adams, projected for 15 fantasy points. The Raiders have an implied point total of 24.5, 7th in the NFL, and they're favored by 6.5 points. 15.1 optimal percentage for Davante Adams, 12.5 boom percentage. Again, the Colts are down bad. We talked about this with Josh Jacobs. The problem is, the Raiders are also down bad because they can't score in the second half. It's like they get things going, and then they can't fucking finish the game. They can't do anything. Adams goes nuclear in the first half last week for the Raiders. In the second half, he's like Waldo. You can't find him. He was nowhere to be found. So again, the matchup looks great. The price looks good. The problem is with the Raiders. At number 3, we have Stefon Diggs of the Buffalo Bills going up against the Minnesota Vikings, 9,100, projected for 15.6 fantasy points. The Bills have the 6th highest implied point total on the week, 10.6 optimal percentage, 8.8 boom percentage. Stefon Diggs, to me, even if Case Keenum starts, I'm willing to pay up for Stefon Diggs because I think Case Keenum is one of the best backups in the NFL, and him and Diggs already have a connection from Minnesota, who they're playing up against a double revenge game. With that said, people are going to get nervous if Case Keenum plays, which I think is going to be the case. They're going to start to panic. They'll be like, oh, do I really want to pay $9,100 for Diggs with Case Keenum? And then Case Keenum is going to throw the ball 7,000 times to Stefon Diggs, and he's going to have a fantastic performance. So even if Case Keenum's under center, I'm confident in Stefon Diggs. At number 2, we have the Cheetah, Tyreek Hill of the Miami Dolphins, going up against the Cleveland Browns, $9,000 on FanDuel, projected for 18.4 fantasy points. The Dolphins with, like I said earlier, the 3rd highest point total in the NFL on the week, favored by 4 points, 22.6 optimal percentage, 21.3 boom percentage. If the MVP award for the NFL wasn't just for quarterbacks, which it basically is, right? Tyreek Hill should be the front runner. This guy is putting the team on his back. This guy's putting hella numbers up. Tua's playing great as well. I'm a Dolphins fan. I love Tua. But Tyreek Hill, what he's doing, man, he's going to potentially smash the receiving yards season record from Megatron. Obviously, you got to pay the big bucks now for Tyreek Hill because of how good he and Tua looks. But man, oh man, even at $9,000, it feels worth it. At number 1 at the quarterback position, we have Cooper Kupp of the LA Rams going up against the Cardinals, 9,200, projected for 19.1 fantasy points, 11th in the NFL in terms of implied point total, favored by 3 points, 22.6 boom percentage, 21.2 optimal percentage. Now, this is the situation where if Stafford doesn't play, we're going to have to watch the John Wolford experience. Not doing that. Not doing that. That is just not worth it. Look, I know there'll be leverage because people won't play Cooper Kupp. But let's be honest, like Stafford has looked bad. Like I can't imagine how bad things are going to get with John Wolford. So if Wolford's the guy, I'm scared. If it's Stafford, even with how bad Stafford's look, I'm still in at that price tag. Now we move to the tight end position, the final position. If you've ended up enjoying this video thus far, we're kind of deep in the video, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and that like button down below. Leave a comment if you got any questions. So at number 8, we have Greg Dulcich of the Broncos going up against the Late Titans in Tennessee, 5,900. Foster Moreau of the Raiders, 5,200 up against the Colts. Zach Ertz of the Arizona Cardinals going up against the Rams, 6,300 in LA. At number 5, we have Pat Freiermuth of the Pittsburgh Steelers going up against the Saints, 5,600, projected to score 8 fantasy points. Again, there's no spread on this game. 8.1 optimal percentage, 4.7 boom percentage. Now, the most interesting distinction between DraftKings and FanDuel on the week is the tight end pricing. On DraftKings, while Kelsey was super expensive, the other guys were relatively cheap. Whereas here, Kelsey's still expensive, but the other guys still feel kind of expensive, if you get what I'm feeling, get what I'm putting down, you know what I'm saying? So Freiermuth is a great target for the Steelers. They don't chase Claypool anymore. Kenny Pickett has proven to want to feed him the rock. The Saints defense, though, looks legit. I mean, they didn't look the best last night up against the Ravens, or not last night, on Monday Night Football, but still, now, this is a matchup that isn't the most ideal for Freiermuth, but he gets so much volume that he could pay off the $5,600 price tag. At number 4, we move to David Njoku of the Browns going up against the Dolphins. We are assuming he is going to play in this game, $5,800 in Miami. Projected to score 8.2 fantasy points, 22.25 implied point total, 14th in the NFL. 4-point dogs in this matchup, 8.1 optimal percentage, 6.1 boom percentage. The Dolphins defense is straight Swiss cheese. I'm going to keep it 100% with you. The Dolphins defense, I'm a Dolphins fan. It's absolute dick cheese. We just saw Justin Fields carve us up, Jeffrey Dahmer style, and I'm incredibly nervous for what might happen in this spot. Jacoby Brissett proved that he likes David Njoku. He didn't love Harrison Bryant, but he loved feeding David Njoku. So if Njoku plays here, it makes a ton of sense why we have him ranked so high at number 3, especially at that price tag of $5,800. TJ Hawkinson of the Vikings going up against the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo, 6,000 $1,000 projected for 8.4 fantasy points. The Vikings have a 20 implied point total in this spot, 5.5 point dogs, 7 optimal percentage, 4.8 boom percentage. I was so off on TJ Hawkinson last week. I was thinking it would make no sense for this guy to just pull up into Minnesota on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then play on Sunday and then have a good game. It just didn't add up to me. It made no sense. Then obviously he has a good game. This week he gets the Bills defense. That's also beat up. Makes sense to have him ranked this high. Hopefully Case Keenum, if he plays, is able to keep this one close. I honestly think the Bills win, even with Case Keenum. At number 2, we have Tyler Higbee of the LA Rams going up against the Arizona Cardinals, $6,000. Now, I talked about this in the DraftKings Contenders video, but I'm going to, again, I'm very honest with these things. Our projections are amazing. They are. But I do disagree sometimes with our projections, which I think is fine, right? To disagree at times. Tyler Higbee has been absolutely awful over the last couple of weeks. To start off the season, he was incredible. It seemed like Stafford loves to throw the ball to him, but recently, he just hasn't been getting the targets. And he's priced the same as Hawkinson. He's more than Njoku. He's more than Freiermuth, more than Greg Dulcich. All guys that I like. And now that I say this, he's going to shit directly down the chest, the throat of the Cardinals and have a huge game, right? But I just don't know if I'm comfortable saying that. 8.4 optimal percentage, 8.4 boom percentage. If Wofford's under center, though, just waft it away. Don't be doing anything with that. At number 1, we have Travis Kelce. Shocker, right? Who would have guessed that? Of the Chiefs going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, 8,500, projected for 15.5 fantasy points. Chiefs have an implied point total of 30, first in the NFL in the week, favored by 9.5 points, 18.4 optimal percentage, 23.8 boom percentage. Even with Juju and Hardman looking incredible, Travis Kelce is still having a fucking Thanksgiving feast, Ezekiel Elliott style. The Jaguars defense does not concern me, but you already knew that Travis Kelce was going to be the number 1 ranked tight end on the weeks. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you ended up enjoying, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below as well as that like button. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. Make sure you check out that offer on BetMGM. Link down below in the description and in the pinned comment. I love you guys all so much. Hope you all have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, goodbye!